Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are diving into the absolutely fascinating and sometimes completely wacky world of time travel. We're going to separate the most mind-bending internet lore from the actual, proven astrophysics that literally affect our daily lives. So whether you're a massive sci-fi fan or a hard science enthusiast, buckle up. This journey is going to take us from impossible legends straight through to the very real equations that govern our universe. So I want you to start by just asking yourself, what if time isn't as fixed as we believe? It's this universal human desire, right? We all want to step outside the normal flow of time. We want to witness history with our own eyes or, take a peek into tomorrow. And for centuries, everyday people have claimed to do exactly that, returning with these crazy stories of impossible encounters that really spark our curiosity and kind of challenge our whole understanding of reality. All right, let's kick things off with Part 1, Famous Time Travel Legends. We're putting on our detective hats to examine some of the most bizarre historical claims of people supposedly visiting other eras or miraculously predicting the future. If we map out some of history's most enduring timeline mysteries, it's quite a trip. Starting way back in 1901, you've got these two British academics walking through the gardens of Versailles who claim they experienced a time slip, literally suddenly surrounded by people in 18th century clothing from the Marie Antoinette era. Fast forward to 1943, and you have the conspiracy theories about the U.S. Navy's Philadelphia experiment supposedly teleporting a warship. Then the 1950s gave us two massive legends. Rudolf Fentz, a guy in 19th century gear who inexplicably appeared in busy New York traffic, and the man from Taured, a traveler detained in a Japanese airport with a passport for a country that simply doesn't exist, who then just vanished from a locked hotel room overnight. No way, right? But honestly, the most lucrative legend belongs to a guy named Andrew Carlson, back in 2003. According to the story, Carlson started with a measly $800 and somehow turned it into an astonishing $350 million in the stock market in just a few weeks. Every single trade was absolutely flawless. And when the SEC arrested him for suspected insider trading, his defense was, incredibly simple. He claimed to be a time traveler from the year 2256. Shortly after making bail, he disappeared completely, literally vanished without a trace. While Carlson vanished, another alleged time traveler chose to leave a massive digital footprint. This brings us to Part 2, the John Titor hoax. We're going down the ultimate internet rabbit hole here to look at some legendary forum posts that captivated the web at the turn of the millennium. Picture this. It's November 2000, and a user who would come to be known as John Titor logs into a forum and drops this famous intro. Greetings, I am a time traveler from the year 2036. He claimed to be an American soldier from this fractured future, sent on a wildly specific mission. He had to travel back to 1975 to grab an early portable computer, the IBM 5100. Why? Well, according to Titor, this specific machine had a secret, unpublicized feature that they desperately needed to debug legacy computer systems in 2036. These systems were supposedly facing a very real, impending crash known as the 2038 Unix timeout error. Okay. Let's dive into this, because the mechanics he described were absurdly specific. To avoid the classic grandfather paradox, where you accidentally prevent your own birth, Titor relied on the many worlds interpretation of quantum physics. According to his posts, traveling back in time automatically shifts you to a new parallel world line. So he starts in his original world line A in 2036, jumps back to world line B in 1975 to grab the computer, travels forward to world line C in the year 2000 for personal reasons, and essentially drops right into world line D, our reality. The guy even posted diagrams of his highly complex machine. It was called the C24 gravity unit, supposedly manufactured by GE, complete with twin singularities and variable gravity locks, all stuffed into the trunk of a 1967 Chevy Corvette. Honestly, it's great sci-fi. But we have to juxtapose that brilliant world building with reality. Titor claimed America would be consumed by a second civil war in 2005, leading to World War III in 2015. When absolutely none of that happened, and private investigators linked his IP address to an entertainment lawyer in Florida, it became crystal clear. John Titor had zero physical evidence. It was just a really elaborate hoax. Moving on to Section 3, Stephen Hawking's Empty Party. We've explored the myths and the internet fictions, but what actually happens when one of the greatest scientific minds in human history decides to put backward time travel to a hard, real-world test? Back in 2009, theoretical physicist Stephen Hawking devised this brilliantly simple experiment. He decided to throw a party for time travelers. But the absolute genius of it was the catch. He didn't send out the invitations until after the party had completely ended. The logic is totally flawless, right? If humanity ever invents a time machine in the future, historians would read about this exact invitation, lock in the coordinates for June 28, 2009, and just show up to prove backward time travel is possible. So, Hawking went all out. The room was beautifully decorated, colorful balloons everywhere, snacks laid out perfectly, and bottles of iced champagne just waiting to be popped. And then, he just sat there and waited. The stark reality? He sat in a completely empty room. Not a single person from the future arrived to drink the champagne. 0. That is the dramatic number of guests who attended. As Hawking later explained, this lonely little gathering was pretty solid experimental evidence that traveling backward in time remains entirely unproven, physically elusive, and a total mystery to modern science. Nobody came back, which heavily implies that changing the past is, well, impossible. Part 4. The real science of time. Now, what's really interesting here is that while backward time travel might be impossible, forward time travel is an absolute, undeniable reality. Welcome to the real physics of time. Over a century ago, Albert Einstein's theory of relativity totally shattered our understanding of the universe. He introduced this concept called time dilation. According to this profoundly beautiful mathematical framework, which, by the way, is proven, time and space are linked. Time doesn't just tick at the exact same rate for everyone. The rule is simply this: the faster an object moves, or the stronger the gravitational field it's sitting in, the slower time passes for that object compared to a stationary observer. So moving forward through time at different speeds, that's not fiction. It's a hard scientific fact. To really bring this concept to life, physicists love using the famous twin paradox. Just imagine you have a twin. You stay right here on Earth, chilling, experiencing time at our normal rate. Meanwhile, your twin hops into a high-tech spaceship and zooms off through the galaxy at just a fraction below the speed of light. We're talking close to 186,000 miles per second. When your twin finally turns around and lands back on Earth, things get crazy. Because they were moving so incredibly fast, time dilated for them. You would be an old person, maybe having aged 30 years, while your twin would have barely aged 5. Your twin has literally traveled into your future. And this brilliantly illustrates something we can actually measure today. We don't even need theoretical spaceships for this. Scientists have run experiments using incredibly precise atomic clocks. They left one clock on Earth as a baseline and stuck another one on a fast-moving airplane flying around the globe. When the plane landed, its clock had actually ticked fractionally slower. Conversely, if you put a clock way up high in a GPS satellite, it ticks fractionally faster because it's further away from Earth's strong gravity. Which leads us to the absolute mind-blowing everyday reality of time travel that's sitting in your pocket right now. The GPS satellites powering the maps on your phone orbit the Earth at 8,700 miles per hour. That speed slows their clocks down by a tiny fraction. But wait, they also orbit 12,550 miles above the surface, where the much weaker gravity speeds their clocks up by a slightly larger fraction. The combined result? GPS satellites experience time just a tiny bit faster than we do down here on the ground. NASA scientists literally have to use Einstein's math to constantly correct for this time dilation. If they didn't account for this actual time travel, the errors would compound so fast that your GPS maps would be off by several miles every single day. You'd literally be driving into lakes. This brings us to Part 5, Wormholes and Future Possibilities. Moving beyond our everyday tech, let's look at how Einstein's equations might also allow for incredible cosmic shortcuts through the very fabric of the universe itself. The math of general relativity points to the potential existence of wormholes. Imagine the universe is just a massive, flat piece of paper. Instead of traveling the long, boring ways straight across the paper from point A to point B, a wormhole is what happens if you fold that paper in half and punch a hole straight through. Boom. It's a theoretical shortcut that folds space and time, potentially creating a door not just between two distant galaxies, but possibly even between two different eras. Now, to be crystal clear here, scientists like Carl Sagan and Kip Thorne have researched this extensively, but unlike time dilation, no wormhole has ever actually been observed. They remain mathematically possible, but entirely unproven. Which brings us to the end of our journey today, leaving us with one massive, lingering question. Will we ever unlock the true secrets of time? As we've seen, part of the puzzle is already solved. Time dilation proves we're all time travelers, moving forward at our own relative speeds. But crossing back into the past?
Well, for now, that remains trapped behind the veil of internet legends and empty champagne glasses. Whether these mysteries eventually become everyday science or remain untouchable legends forever, the pursuit of understanding time is always going to be one of humanity's greatest adventures. Keep questioning the world around you, and thanks so much for exploring with me.